Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning back in again. This is a screencast-o-matic presentation and recording for the part of the lesson that has looking at the Mongolian Empire after Genghis Khan. As you can see here by this map again, the Mongolian Empire would expand across not only parts of Asia, but also the Middle East and even parts of Europe too. So what made this such a successful and iconic empire? Aside from taking over Central Asia, China, the Middle East, Korea, and many Islamic empires too, the fact is that the Mongolian Empire would prove to be one of the largest empires in world history due to its military advancements and, of course, successful administrative rule. So here's more of the story about the Mongolian Empire. For context, however, you can see here how large the Mongolian Empire is, especially in relation to the United States of America. So after the death of Genghis Khan, the Mongolian Empire was divided into four major sections called Khanates, each ruled by a son or a grandson of Genghis. The most important Khanate, however, was the one located in China, the Khanate of the Great Khan. In 1279, Genghis's grandson Kublai Khan became the ruler of the Khanate of the Great Khan, and as such the first foreign leader to reside within China, as he ruled it. Here's a depiction of what Kublai Khan might have looked like. Now Kublai Khan began a new era in China called the Yuan dynasty, and Kublai enjoyed Chinese culture so much that he even moved the Mongolian capital to China. However, he excluded the Chinese from serving in leadership positions, and he relied on non-Chinese people to serve in his government. Also, Kublai Khan proved to be a good emperor for China. Under Kublai, foreign trade with China increased, and he built roads and extended the Grand Canal to improve transportation. He even ushered in a serious era of peace and prosperity for Mongolia. From the mid-1200s to the mid-1300s, the rule of the Mongols was a time of peace and stability. This era of stability was called the Pax Mongolica, which means Mongol peace. Because of the safety of Pax Mongolica, there was enormous trade between Asia and Europe that helped elevate the status and culture of all those involved. Safe passage was even granted for trade caravans, travelers, and missionaries, and even a common currency allowed for the Mongolian Empire to expand universally. Chinese technologies like gunpowder and the magnetic compass reached Europe too, and this would later help the Europeans when they began exploring and conquering other parts of the world. As you can see here by this map, the Silk Road would soon become expanded into just a variety of different routes, connecting east from west in ways that would forever change the world. Now, on the negative side here, diseases like the plague or the Black Death also made their way from Asia to Europe along those same trade routes and killed millions of people. It should be noted here that the bubonic plague gets its name from the bubos, or blisters, that appear on the skin that can turn black. Although the Black Plague was iconically known throughout world history, the fact is that European trade did in fact expedite the process of the spread of the disease. A man by the name of Marco Polo from Venetian cities was iconically known throughout Asia and much of the world. He, of course, sought to expand the trade routes in a big dynamic way, and in 1275, a European merchant, Marco Polo, of course, as we named, visited Kublai Khan's royal court and established a relationship that would go down in history as iconically important. Marco was very impressed by the riches on display in China, insofar as much to say that he describes them as more precious and costly wares are imported into the Khan Malik of Beijing than in any other city in the world. All the treasures that come from India, precious stones, pearls, and other rarities, are brought here, and so too are the choicest of costliest products of Cathay, China, itself, and every other province. What should also be noted here about this trade connection and relation is that Kublai Khan was impressed with Marco, so the emperor employed him in the Yuan government for 17 years. And Marco Polo's journeys and travels and experiences have been iconically recorded. Even in the travels of Marco Polo, when Marco Polo returned to Italy in 1292, this book that he wrote about his travels and his stories of China increased European demand for Asian products. It also allowed Europeans to know a little bit more about the once mysterious world of Asia. Additionally, twice, Kublai Khan tried to invade Japan by sea, but both invasions failed. Maybe there were extents to how far the Mongolian Empire could go. During the second invasion, a massive storm swept away the Mongol ships, and clearly they were not as good on ship as they were on horseback. For many years, the Japanese would speak of the divine wind that saved Japan from the Mongol invasion. The Japanese word for divine wind is kamikaze, which we're going to learn about more later on in the Japan unit. These failed invasions, however, show us the cost of the Mongols a lot of men and money, and this began the decline of the Mongol Empire. So this is what we would call a turning point in world history. By the time of Kublai Khan's death in 1294, the entire Mongol Empire was growing weak, and not only weak from its exterior points, but also weak from within. Here's why. In the year 1330, the Mongols lost control of Persia, as you can see here by this map. And by the year 1368, the Chinese overthrew the Mongols and started the Ming dynasty, which would later go on to be one of the strongest dynasties in China's years. In 1370, the Mongols lost control of Central Asia, and in 1480, under Tsar Ivan III, Russia gained its independence from Mongol rule and started the Romanov dynasty. Clearly, the Mongolian Empire was chipping away. Now, the Mongols' empire was gradually reduced until at the end, all they had left was the territory that they originally had in the early 1200s, clearly a far cry away from what they once had. However, we cannot overlook their impact. Let's analyze it here. In thinking about this question, how did the Mongols create the largest land empire in human history? Well, Genghis Khan's military genius, for one, and the fact that he was able to organize fast-moving, tough warriors and place great emphasis on training and proliferation. Using new tactics and weapons and mastering them, spreading terror to make enemies surrender without a fight, and of course, embellishing upon fear along with tolerant rule at the same time. Keeping the conquered people from rebelling against the Mongols for a long time proved to be a successful trait. Additionally, the reason why they declined leads to the following few factors. Leaders after Genghis and Kublai were not as capable, and they attempted invasions of Japan and Southeast Asia, which of course proved to be blatant failures, and they not only cost a lot of money and soldiers, but also additionally a lot of morale. The conquered people, too, would use the Mongols' own fighting tactics against them and eventually overthrow them. In analyzing here the effects of the Mongolian Empire in the long term, millions of people lost their lives to the ravages of the Mongol army. However, the Mongols brought about a time of stability and peace as they ruled. Marco Polo's time with the Mongols increased European interest in Asia, and this was good for trade. And so there was more exchange for goods between Europe and Asia than ever before. Europe gained new technology and gunpowder and more, and Europe also may have gone the plague from the Mongols too, which killed millions of people, which we're going to learn about next. So as you can see, the fact is that the Mongolian Empire is known for so much and more, but it's clear to see why in world history and world cultures, why their impact forever matters. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good luck with completing the rest of the lesson.